Hi everybody, it's Foxy, your drama teacher here. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to choose a good monologue for an audition. It's very important to establish the fact that choosing a monologue for an audition needs to be very deliberate and very intentional, as opposed to choosing a monologue that will just help you improve your overall acting skills. So first and foremost, when you're choosing a monologue for improving your acting skills, the sky is the limit. You can choose a monologue from any play, from a musical, from a screenplay, or from a movie, from a monologue book that's not actually from a play or from a full production. It's a standalone monologue on its own. When you're trying to improve your acting skills and you want to use monologues as a tool to do that, you really have unlimited options and unlimited resources. When it comes to choosing a monologue for an audition, however, you want to be a lot more intentional, a lot more deliberate, and put a lot more work into a monologue that you're going to deliver before a casting director. So a few things to keep in mind. First and foremost, you want to pick a monologue that is from a full-length production. There are so many resources on the internet, in libraries, in bookstores that have monologue books. I'm even guilty of using them myself. I'm guilty of buying them for you guys to use at school or in the black box. If you're looking for a monologue, I'll toss you a book and I'll say, here's a book of a whole bunch of monologues. Have at it. But when you are considering auditioning for professional theater or developing a reel or submitting an online audition with a monologue as your piece or as your performance aspect, you really want to choose a monologue from a full-length production. Not only that, but you also want to make sure that you have read that entire full-length production. I'll give you an example. I was called out in a professional audition because I was a moron, and when the director asked me if my monologue was from a full play, I said yes, it was, because that was the truth. And then he said, and have you read the play? I looked up and I said, no. Epic fail, you guys, epic fail. Don't ever go into an audition with a monologue from a full-length play if you have not read the entire thing. Did I get the part? No. Did I even get a callback? No. Because, now I'm not saying it's just because I didn't read the play, but that was a very embarrassing moment for me, and I don't want you guys ever to have to go through something like that yourselves. First rule of auditioning with a monologue, make sure you have read the entire play, all right? First rule. A good reason why I recommend that you've read the entire play, or specifically why you choose a monologue from a full play, is that you get a really more well-rounded understanding of character development. I'm a huge fan of character development. If you've taken my class, you know that. I put so much emphasis on background work, on understanding where a character is coming from. I recommend doing research outside of the play, even if that's necessary, if the play itself doesn't give you enough information. But I really recommend that having read the whole play, and then you do a monologue from a portion of the play, you understand so much more about character motivation, character objective, character drives. What just happened in the scene right before where your monologue takes place? That gives you so much better understanding of the headspace of your character, as opposed to a standalone monologue. If you take a standalone monologue from a book, there's no story, there's no world, there's no relationships that come into play for that character. It's just an isolated moment in time. When you have a whole play, you have the thoughts, the feelings, the passions, the connections that that character feels from the entire thing to use to give you support, to lift you up for that monologue. You understand where that character is coming from, what's just happened in their life, what's going on in their heart, what they're feeling, and you can use all of that to drive into your monologue, as opposed to a standalone where that's just missing. And anything else you can give to your monologue to make it more genuine is really what you want. Make sure that you are choosing something that is appropriate for you. Oftentimes when you audition for professional theater, they're looking to cast their entire season based on one set of auditions. So you could be auditioning for a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical plus a play by Arthur Miller, plus a contemporary piece that no one's produced before. And so they are considering you for a broad range of roles. So you want to make sure that you are giving a monologue that shows a large range of skill, but also a monologue that is very true to you. I know I've said this before to many of you individually. Sometimes in high school, you will get cast in roles that you would not typically play in real life. Last year, for example, we did Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Some of you played children, some of you played grown adults, some of you played grandparents, some of you played Oompa Loompas, right? And Oompa Loompas don't exist in real life. And the truth is that as a 17-year-old or 18-year-old or 16-year-old or 25-year-old or 30-year-old like I am, you will only be cast in roles that are true to your age. So when you're choosing a monologue for a professional audition, or even an audition outside of a collegiate or academic setting, you want to make sure that you are choosing a monologue that is age appropriate. I would not go into an audition with a monologue from Annie, because I am not a 10-year-old little girl. And so to deliver a monologue as a 10-year-old little girl would not be appropriate. If you guys are 17, 18, 16, 19, 20, 22 years old, I don't recommend you read a monologue of King Lear. King Lear was in his 50s or 60s, or he was a very, very old man. And so to read a monologue as King Lear as a teenager is not appropriate. Use King Lear to get better with your acting. Absolutely, that's a great idea. There's such a broad range of possibilities you can do, but for a professional monologue, for a professional audition, you don't want a casting director to look at you and be like, this person's 19, teenager age, I want to consider this person for a T-Bird in Greece, why are they reading for King Lear? It's not appropriate, okay? So choose something that is appropriate for your age. Next, you want to have a wide variety of options to choose from. If you are building a portfolio, and I'll have a whole separate YouTube video on building an actual portfolio, but if you are going to an audition and you have an audition prepared, the director has asked for a 1-minute comedic monologue, you should have a 1-minute comedic monologue, but you should also be prepared with several other monologues in your own personal repertoire, because you never know when a director is going to ask for something else. They could say, oh, that monologue was really interesting. Can you show me something classical? Because what that means is that, like I said before, you could be auditioning for an entire season. You could be auditioning for a musical and for a play and for a Shakespeare production all at the same time. So if you go in and you deliver and you kill your comedic monologue, like you nail it, and the director sees something in you, they might be thinking, that person might be perfect for the part of Ophelia in Hamlet. I want to see if they can do something classical. And so you need to be prepared. You need to have whatever they've asked for the audition itself, and then have other things in your back pocket. At any given time, if you go to a professional audition, you should have a comedic monologue, a dramatic monologue, and a classical monologue. And what I mean by classical monologue is typically anything older than 1900. So you can get away with anything by Oscar Wilde, you can get away with anything Shakespearean, Christopher Marlowe, you can even go older, something by Euripides or Greek, Sophocles, or something that is ancient, anything from ancient Greece up through the late 1800s is considered classical, and so that is something that you should have in your repertoire. Traditionally, classical pieces are much more difficult to do because the language is going to be a little bit older. It might be Old English or British language that you might not be as familiar with. So that is something that's very important that you have available if a director asks for it. Accents. No, accents are bad when you are auditioning for a production unless it specifically calls for an accent. Even if the monologue itself, if you find a monologue from a play and you, for example, say it's from Pygmalion by Bernard Shaw, which is the precursor to My Fair Lady. Pygmalion, the character in Pygmalion, Eliza Doolittle, has a Cockney accent from in the beginning, and she graduates to a high British, a very posh British accent in the second half of that production. If you find a monologue in that play that really, really resonates with you and you think to yourself, this is a great monologue for me, I'm in my early 20s, I can relate to Eliza Doolittle, and I want to do this monologue for my portfolio and have it available. Take the accent out, unless the director specifically asks for it. If you are auditioning for My Fair Lady, or if you are auditioning for Pygmalion, yes, of course, the director is going to want to see that you can do an accent at the drop of a hat. And I'll do a whole separate YouTube video just on accents because I think they're fun. But unless the director asks for it, you don't want to put an accent out there. That would just be confusing. Like I said, if you're auditioning for an entire season and your monologue has a British accent to it, you might actually confuse the director if you walk in and you slate and you say, "Hi, my name's Corinne Fox and I'm going to be doing a monologue from Pygmalion by Bernard Shaw." "Oh, I say, what was this going on here?" The director is going to look at you and be like, why are they delivering this monologue in an accent? They might not consider you then for a classical Shakespearean play. They might not consider you for a musical because your monologue is so pinpointed, is so focused, is so specific to a genre that might automatically eliminate you. When choosing a good audition monologue is to make sure you're choosing something that shows a large range of emotion or a large range of skills or a diverse set of skills. Very oftentimes, you've heard me say this in class if you've taken any of my theater classes, and I'll say it now for those of you that haven't done that, is when you are acting, I like to think of acting on different levels, right? When you're acting down here, you're talking at a very normal pace. It's pretty much how I'm talking to you guys now. It's right down here. Oh my gosh, if I was going to talk to you up here, I'm talking to you up here, and this shows so much more emotion and such a large range of shouting. But that isn't any better than this. So you want to make sure I look at acting and I look at emotion like a roller coaster. When you start a roller coaster, it goes tick, 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 and you're at the top, and then it swishes down the bottom. It might do some loop-de-loops, it might do some swirls. And you really want to think of your monologue much like a roller coaster in terms of how you want to deliver your emotion, or how you want to deliver your tactics. If you're choosing a more Stanislavski approach to acting verbs as opposed to acting emotion, that's your choice. When you deliver a monologue, you don't want your monologue to be down here, but you don't want your monologue to be up here the whole time either, because you want to show range. You want to have your monologue start down and then build, or start up top and then go soft again. You want to show a roller coaster of diversity, a roller coaster of skill in your monologue. You don't want it to be linear. A linear emotion is very flat, and the problem with flat emotion is that the audience will tune you out. The same is true in dance. You don't want to have all of your dancing be flat. That's why so many dancers add floor work in, because it changes the level. It makes the audience change their focus and snap out of whatever comatose state they've gotten into by watching monologue after monologue after monologue. But if you start here and then you jump and then you come back down and then you come back up halfway and then you come back up all the way and then you come back down, if you show that range, you're really going to keep the casting director or the casting panel engaged, and that will help keep their attention. You have to remember, when someone is casting a show, they're going to be looking at hundreds and hundreds of auditionees. You need to find a way for you to stand out. So when you have this large range of emotion and you add punchy moments, that's going to be a lot more effective than just being down here or just being up here. You might think to yourself, oh, I'm going to add so much emotion. I'm going to be, this monologue is of someone shouting at someone else. And even if that's true, you still don't want to be up here the whole time, because that will cause an audience or cause a casting director to tune out just as much, because there's not enough levels. Levels are your friend, especially when you're delivering a monologue. You want to make sure that it changes. You want to make sure that it's dynamic, interactive, engaging. That way the casting director or the casting team stays interested, okay? When you are delivering a monologue, you want to be as genuine as possible. That is so, so important. Being genuine makes a casting director believe that you could be that person. You don't want to come in as me and then now I'm going to play a character. You want your audition, you want your monologue to be believable. You want a casting director to see you and think to yourself, oh my gosh, I believe them. I believe that they are that person. Wow, I'm sold. I'm convinced. That's why I've said, choose a monologue that's true to you. Choose a monologue that's age appropriate, that fits your walk in life, whether it's someone that has just gone through a heartbreak, whether it's someone that has just experienced a loss, whether it's someone that is at the best moment in their life and they can't wait to share that with you. You want to portray emotions that are genuine, and that will come across better, that will translate better on camera or in person through a monologue than just something that is stretching you emotionally, stretching you as an actor. That's great for rehearsing. You want to stretch yourself for a rehearsal, but you don't want to stretch yourself for an audition. For an audition, you want to be solid. You want to convince them that you have already got this in the bag, that they will not regret casting you because you could already portray something that is so convincing, that is so powerful, so moving. Now, I know that's putting a lot of pressure on you for one audition and for one monologue, but that's what you've got. When you go into a professional audition, you have that minute and a half to prove to them that you are worth casting. And so you should put a lot of pressure on yourself in the build-up, in the rehearsal process, in the practicing to get ready for that monologue. That way when you go in there, you know what you're doing, you've practiced enough times, it's muscle memory, it's rote, and you can just go in and knock it out of the park. Another piece of advice for you is to choose a monologue from a play that is not overdone, which I know can be difficult. You want to choose a monologue from a play that showcases your abilities. You do not want to choose a monologue from a musical. You do not want to choose a monologue from a screenplay if you are doing a professional audition. If you are auditioning for community theater, if you are auditioning for a school production, if you are auditioning for something, if you are practicing and trying to build your skills, monologues from books, from movies, from musicals are great. They will help you broaden your skill set and make you a more well-rounded actor. But when you are going for a legitimate professional audition, stick to a classic full-length play. I don't recommend you choose something from The Crucible. I don't recommend you choose something from Our Town. I don't recommend you choose something from Almost Maine. I don't recommend you choose something from a play that is so popular, so overdone. If you've done it in high school, probably it's not a good decision to use that for an audition unless your high school teacher had you do something a little bit more obscure. We give the same advice in musical theater. You don't want to sing a song from Les Mis for your audition. You don't want to sing a song from Phantom or from Wicked or from Hamilton for your audition because those songs are so overdone. They're so iconic, and so you don't want to be in an audition and have your voice be compared to Idina Menzel's. You want to make sure that you are carving your own path and that you are giving a fresh perspective or a fresh interpretation of the piece that you do. So just like we say, don't do any of these overdone musical theater songs, the same thing is true for an acting audition. Don't do any of these overdone play auditions. Don't do To Be or Not to Be from Hamlet. It's so overdone. Okay? So make sure that you choose something that is age appropriate. You choose something that you can relate to, that is something that matches your walk in life, that is specific to what gender you want to portray on film, specific to what emotions or what journey, what path you are walking down. You want to choose something that is genuine. Choose something that is so convincing that if you walked in and you played that character, you would just embody them so truly and so convincingly. You want to make sure that you choose something that is from a full-length play. You want to choose something that is from a production that you have read. That way, if the director asks you, so what do you think happened to this character before they got to this point? You want to be able to say, oh, their mother died and that's why they were acting this way. Oh, well, they just got into a fight with their girlfriend, so that's why they're acting this way. Oh my gosh, they just got a job promotion, so of course that's why they're acting this way. You want to be intelligent. You want to be able to speak intelligently about what has happened in the play before the monologue comes up, because you never know when a director is going to ask you more questions. Also, lastly, have a bunch of monologues in your repertoire. Have a comedic monologue, have a dramatic monologue, have a have a Shakespearean or a classical monologue, have a 1-minute monologue, have a 2-minute monologue, have a large enough range of monologues in your portfolio. So if a director asks you, hey, do you happen to have a dramatic monologue that's a little bit longer? Why, yes, I do. Could you show me like 30 seconds of a Shakespearean monologue? Of course I can. You want to be the yes man at an audition. You want to be prepared, and you want to always put your best foot forward. I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, you can feel free to let me know. Leave me a comment down below, and I'm happy to answer them as best as I can. Thanks for watching, you guys. See you next time. Bye.